Maybe the first and only time in history, the world's most powerful intelligence agency spent millions of dollars trying to turn a cat into a spy. And the entire mission ended crossing a street. 5 years of work, $20 million spent, surgery, training, cutting-edge technology, all pointed at one goal. And here's the strangest part. Even the CIA's own former officers still can't agree on what actually happened to that cat in the end. This is the story of Operation Acoustic Kitty, the secret project where America's intelligence agency tried to turn an ordinary living cat into a piece of spy equipment. To understand it, go back a bit. The 1960s. The Cold War was at its most dangerous point, and the CIA was trying literally everything against its enemy, the Soviet Union. This was the same era when the agency experimented with self-proclaimed psychics, drug dealers, mob figures, and sex workers as potential intelligence assets. It was also the decade the CIA ran MK Ultra, its infamous mind control program. Drugs, hypnosis, and a long list of unethical experiments, all justified in the name of staying ahead of the enemy. Years later, when a slice of these secret programs became public, they were bundled into a notorious internal report nicknamed the Family Jewels, a catalog of the agency's most controversial, most bizarre operations from decades of Cold War paranoia. In that environment, the idea of turning a cat into a spy didn't seem nearly as strange as it does today. The logic itself was simple. An ordinary cat could wander down any street, through any park, right past any embassy, and nobody would think twice about it. No guard was ever going to stop a cat and ask what it was doing there. If that cat carried a device that could listen in and transmit conversations back to waiting officers, it could get close to the most sensitive information on Earth without raising a single eyebrow. Dogs were considered too, but dogs draw attention, bark, and usually look like they belong to someone. Cats, by contrast, wander alone without suspicion. In any city on the planet, a cat is just a cat. Nobody gives it a second look. The CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology took the idea seriously. With the help of a veterinarian surgeon, a cat underwent roughly an hour-long operation. A tiny microphone sensitive enough to pick up a whisper was implanted in its ear canal. A radio transmitter built with the most advanced microelectronics of the era was placed at the base of its skull. And a thin, nearly invisible antenna wire was threaded under its fur, running the length of its back. The whole system was designed to be so light and so small that it wouldn't change how the cat walked, balanced, or behaved. At least, that was the plan on paper. After that surgery, the cat was technically a living, walking surveillance device. Quite possibly the most expensive, most complicated living weapon in history. But the real challenge hadn't even started yet, because the problem was never the technology. The problem was the cat. The moment training began, the CIA realized it hadn't built a machine, it had recruited a living creature that answered to nobody. The cat kept wandering off mission. Sometimes hunger pulled it away, sending it off in search of food instead of its target. This was considered such a serious issue that the agency ordered a second surgery specifically to address the cat's sense of hunger. Sit with that for a second. A top-secret government project funded by American taxpayers performing separate surgery just so the spy cat wouldn't get distracted by being hungry. But hunger wasn't the real problem either. The real problem was instinct. Cats simply don't evolve to take orders the way dogs do. They make their own decisions. Over and over during training, the cat would get distracted by a bird, chase after a bug, stare at a speck of dust for what felt like forever, or simply sit down and groom itself in the middle of a mission. Engineers spent months designing cutting-edge electronics. None of it could rewire millions of years of feline instinct. Years later, one former CIA officer summed up the entire failure in a single line. The cat wanted to do what the cat wanted to do, and not what the agency wanted it to do. Even so, after 5 years of work and roughly $20 million spent, project officials finally decided it was time for the first real-world field test. By that point, with that much money already sunk into it, walking away from the project may have been just as hard for the officials as training the cat itself had been. The target was a park in Washington, D.C., near the Soviet embassy. 2 men were sitting on a bench, deep in conversation, exactly the kind of target the CIA wanted to listen in on. Across the street, inside a parked surveillance van, officers sat ready, headphones on, surrounded by dials and meters, waiting for the very first signal to come through. This was the real test of 5 years of work. The cat was released from the van. It began walking slowly towards the street, and then, as it crossed the road, a taxi hit it. The entire mission, 5 years and $20 million in the making, was over in a matter of seconds before the cat ever even reached its actual target. The officers sitting in that van, surrounded by all their equipment, could do nothing but watch their 5 years of work lying in the street. A CIA operative rushed to the scene almost immediately and recovered the cat's remains, worried that Soviet agents might get their hands on the sensitive technology still inside its body. A failed spy mission had, in its final moment, turned into yet another quiet cleanup operation. In 1967, Operation Acoustic Kitty was formally shut down. It was declared a complete failure, and most of the records were destroyed. For years, the project stayed almost entirely buried, forgotten in classified files. Until 2001, when a batch of partially declassified documents finally surfaced. Among them was a memo in which the CIA itself admitted, in a few dry, understated lines, that trained cats simply weren't practical for its highly specialized needs. Nobody ever disclosed how many cats were actually used in the program, or what happened to the rest of them. But did that cat actually die from being hit by a taxi? The story first appeared in a book written by a former CIA officer, Victor Marchetti, who stated plainly that the cat was killed by a taxi right in front of the officers watching from the van, surrounded by their own dials and meters. But in 2013, another senior former CIA officer, Robert Wallace, who himself had served as director of the agency's Office of Technical Service, publicly disputed the entire account. According to him, the cat survived, was safely recovered, had its surgical implants removed, and went on to live a long, happy life afterwards. Even the government's own declassified documents only confirm that the cat was hit by a taxi. They never confirm whether that's what killed it. 2 senior, credible former officials, 1 event, 2 completely different endings. And to this day, no third piece of evidence has ever surfaced to settle which one is true. Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain. $20 million, 5 years, and the full power of the world's most formidable intelligence agency. Ultimately lost to something an ordinary house cat does for free every day, living exactly the way it wants to.